Welcome to Central News, I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, the new berth extension at the Port of Tauranga is underway and is due for completion at the end of March. The project includes further dredging of the harbour for larger ships to access the narrow entrance. Corporate Services Manager Sarah Lunam says the extension is part of a bigger project to allow the port to now accommodate 3 larger ships alongside each other for improved production.
The new extension will allow us to hold 3 ships alongside and work them. When the terminal was started in '99, we could hold 3, but the ships have got longer and wider, and now we can really only manage 2. So that will bring ships alongside, 3 ships together, we'll be able to work them. It will improve our productivity to those ships because we've got better backup land, more refurb points, new cranes. You know, really it's a package. The extension isn't the thing on its own, it's everything together that will enable this port to grow.
A restricted fire ban is now in place for the Matamata Piako district, including the urban areas of Te Aroha, Waihau, Matamata, Waharoa, Morrinsville and Tahuna. This means fire permits are required for all fires in the open air due to this year's particularly dry summer conditions. Gary Talbolt, the manager of the Thames Valley Emergency Operating Area, says it is important that the fire ban is reinforced for the safety of lives and land.
Well, at this time of year we're experiencing an exceptionally good summer, which means we also have exceptionally dry conditions. So between our Rural Fire Authority, the Department of Conservation and the National Rural Fire Authority, we monitor what's called the fire weather indices, and there are a number of measures that are taken. And in our fire plan we have points that if they're reached by those indices, then we raise the level of limited fires. So at the moment they're quite high. They're not extremely dangerous, but they are getting extremely high, so that's why we have the fire ban in place. The other thing to recognise too with rural fires is if we have vegetation fires, they can damage, especially in the Coromandel area, large tracts of native bush and large pine plantations. So that has a huge impact on our tourism and export dollars. And if we do have rural fires, that can damage the land for a number of years to come, so it can be very difficult to regrow vegetation, regrow agricultural crops, etc. And the long-term effect is all that dunnage and the soil can be run off the land with heavy rains come the winter, so we can actually have a flooding problem 2 or 3 years down the track from all the damage done in a forest fire. So it has a big effect, and some people suggest that rural fires can have a huge consequence in our ability to earn export dollars. So it's not just the fire and the cost of putting it out, but it's the long-term environmental effects that fire can have.
Now for our region's weather. Hamilton, your Friday will be partly cloudy with a southwesterly. Your expected high is 25 and an overnight low of 12. Tauranga, your Friday is sunny with a southwesterly. Your expected high is 27 and an overnight low of 15. Just ahead, the battlefield of Gate Pa. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. The Battle of Gate Pa is said to be one of the most vicious battles of colonial New Zealand. Recently, a series of lectures was held by Cliff Simons, a military historian, on the battle. So, if you weren't able to make it to those lectures, I spoke with the man himself to find out about our bloody history.
They went pretty well, actually, yes. We had a very large response. The church which we held them in was overflowing for the first 3 occasions. People were looking through the doors and looking through the windows, so much bigger numbers than we thought we would have.
So was there any interesting responses from the people who attended?
Yes, I think it went over fairly well. A lot of people were very interested. A lot of people came up to me afterwards and talked about it, and I've had emails and phone calls asking me to talk at other places, and yeah, so I think people are really interested in the story.
Why did you actually want to hold these lectures?
Well, the church here sits on the site of the battle, and it likes to tell the story and hold that story and communicate it, so that was part of the process. But we're in the last 12 to 14 months before the 150th commemorations of the battle, so we're starting to try and get that story out and let people understand what the battle was all about. There's quite a lot of interest, but a lot of it is a little bit misinformed. You only look at the letters to the editor and other things like that, and there's quite a lot of vitriolic attitudes about what happened. And we're also going through that process of treaty settlements with a number of iwi, so there is a high level of interest in this whole area.
What were the contributing factors that actually led to the Battle of Gate Pa?
Well, the Battle of Gate Pa, or the Tauranga campaign, the Battle of Gate Pa and Tauranga, were really the tail end of the Waikato War. And the British had been aware that the Kingite Maori here were part of a supply chain, and that men and material and war supplies and so on were going across from Tauranga into the Waikato to support the Maori army over there. And so it was an operation on the flanks of the battle, if you like, or flanks of the campaign, to seal off and blockade Tauranga to assist what was happening in the Waikato.
Why were the British interested in Tauranga and its harbour at that stage?
Well, the harbour was being used, as I said, for war supplies. So ammunition, weapons were coming into the Tauranga harbour, and then they were being taken across the Kaimais into the Waikato. So there was also food being grown here, and that was about to be taken over. And also some of the East Coast tribes would make their way up past Whakatane into Tauranga, and then they would make their way across. So for a lot of reasons, it was part of the logistic route for the Maori army.
And I guess that's, the logistics are still there in Tauranga today.
And the route that they took is much the route that we would take across into Waikato today. Yeah.
Can you run us through the events of Gate Pa?
Well, the Maori strategy, when they realised that the British had arrived here in Tauranga, it was probably their worst nightmare, because they were fighting in the Waikato and the British arrived behind them here. And so the strategy was really, how do we draw them out into some sort of a decisive battle? And they tried that for several months, and eventually they moved right to this point here, which was on the edge of the Mission land. And that was to be a provocative gesture to try and get the British to attack them, and they were only a couple of kilometres from the British camp down near the Elms. But the British commander thought that he was going to be attacked, and so sent for reinforcements, and General Cameron came from Auckland with a huge number of reinforcements. And so the preparation to attack the Pa was made at that point. And on the night before the battle, there was a feint attack, and the 68th Regiment was inserted behind, and so the Maori inside the Pa were actually sealed off. And then the next morning, the attack went in, and it was a day-long battle. The British actually assaulted the Pa itself late in the afternoon, and were repelled just before dark.
And at one stage, the British troops were actually overpowering Ngāi Serangi. How did that change?
Well, they had a huge artillery advantage, and it looked like they'd more or less bombed them into submission. And then the assault went in, and for about 10 minutes it appeared that the British Army had actually been successful. Well, I should say the Army and the Navy, because it was an unusual combination of soldiers and sailors. And then they were driven out of the Pa. There's a number of reasons, and we're not really completely sure, but it's partly to do with some Maori being pushed out the back of the Pa and then being driven in by the 68th, which was at the back. The soldiers were taking friendly fire from the 68th, and also the Maori were able to organise themselves and at the last minute drive the soldiers out again.
Can you tell us about the kind actions of the female warrior Hene Tikiri Karamu?
Well, Hene, once again, a number of things about this battle are not completely sure, but I'm probably about 95% sure that the person who gave water and showed a lot of kindness to the wounded soldiers during the night after the battle was Hene. Initially it was thought it could have been another person, Hinare Taratoa, but generally considered to be Hene now, the only woman in the battle. She was part Irish, part Maori, and she had grown up in the Paihia mission station, so she was familiar with Europeans. She was a Christian, she was a mother of 4, and so I think she had a certain attitude about the battle and about how things should be done. And she gave water to the wounded soldiers during the night. and comforted them. So that's a nice part of the story, because most battlefields are terrible places, but this one at least has that little wee hint of human kindness about it.
Coming up next, the new anti-domestic violence campaign in Matamata Piako. Welcome back. There is a new billboard campaign in the Matamata Piako area. I chatted with some of the brains behind the billboard campaign.
Well, billboards have three primary aims. The first one is that we wanted our community to feel safe. That's the overall aim, is that we want safety within our community. And by having the billboards out there, we're trying to portray the message, or we want people to know that family violence isn't okay, and it's a way of making us feel safer at home. The second thing is that we want to acknowledge that it's a community issue. It's not just about police, it's not just about the other social services, it's about the community being able to deal with the problem and being able to find a way going forward from it. And the third thing is that we want people to know who they should be contacting if they have an issue. Do they come to the police, or do they go to It's Not Okay, or where? And on the billboard there's a phone number and a website for that. So it gives people an indication, if they're not comfortable about going to a government agency, whether it be police or SIFs, that they can go to someone else for advice.
And what has been the response so far at the billboards?
It's been really positive. We've had a lot of good feedback about the billboards. People really like them, they like seeing them, they like the fact that something's happening in their community around family violence, and people are asking how they can get involved, which is really great.
That's some good feedback for sure. So why did you want Alex Bradley to be part of it?
Well, Alex is just such a great figure locally within the community. He grew up in Morrinsville and he works and lives in Matamata, so he really is local. He also has a passion for family safety, so it's something that's really important to him. So it's great to have someone behind the campaign that feels just as strongly about it as we do.
And being the captain of the Waikato team, he's one of our sporting heroes. It's what everyone aspires to be like, and so we're really lucky to have him involved.
So does the Matamata Piako district actually have a high rate of domestic violence?
There is a high rate, but it's open to interpretation like any number that you get. Like we've noticed that throughout the last 3 years that the rate of domestic violence being reported to police has increased. But whether that means that there's actually a high rate of domestic violence, or whether that the reporting clause is just has increased over the last few years, that's what a debate could be about. So what we're doing is we're assessing the repetitive nature of people coming to us. So if we have people who come to us on repetitive occasions, then we look at them and seeing if we can intervene somehow and give them strategies to get through their issues before it becomes violence. And we look at the seriousness of the offences that occur. So if things are if there's issues within the violence that cause us grave concern, then we know that that means that it's a serious issue to deal with, and we move from there.
Because what should we be doing if we suspect something's happening over to our neighbours or a family friend or even our family?
Well, the first thing is that if it's an immediate emergency, you should be contacting police on 111, and that's the most efficient way of us being able to address safety concerns and deal with the immediate issue. If it's something that doesn't go through police, through that system, then there's other ways, whether it be through your local social services, like there's numerous areas within Matamata Piako. We have Community House in Morrinsville, Starfish in Matamata, and other places in Te Aroha, and just to name a few. We're also lucky to have lots of other groups and agencies who are a part of the Family Safety Network in Matamata Piako, and they can give advice and support throughout every area of domestic violence. And then on a national basis we have It's Not Okay, which is the campaign that's allowing us to support what we're trying to achieve in Matamata Piako.
Because, I mean, if we do suspect something, is it anonymous? Because I know that's why sometimes people don't want to actually speak up because they think they're narking. You know, is it anonymous if we do say something?
Yeah, completely. If you want to be known, you can be, but if you don't want to be known, then that's fine. Because ultimately the goal is to be able to make sure the people around us are safe. So if that means that you want to give your information through anonymously, then that's fine.
And yeah, that is a very important message. So what does the Morrinsville Community House do?
We provide a range of social services to Morrinsville and the wider area. Most of those are focused around domestic violence, so counselling and support groups, anger management programs and that kind of thing. Also things like drug and alcohol and parenting and any sort of support services that the community need. We really like to be responsive to the needs of the community. And we also like to just have an open door. So if someone has a concern about domestic violence, whether it be with themselves or a friend, then they can just pop in and chat to us, and we can point them in the right direction and give them, some things to think about.
Because it's actually part of the Matamata Piako Family Safety Network that have actually started this billboard campaign, haven't they? So what do they do?
So the network is a group of agencies or people, and they come together every Thursday in Morrinsville at the police station, and they discuss every domestic violence incident which has taken place throughout the last week. From that, they assign one of the group or agencies to interacting with the people who have been involved in that domestic incident, so that they can try and help them through what caused it and move forward so it doesn't happen again. So it's all about safety within the family environment, and we chose to call it the Family Safety Team because it's not just about the people who are involved in the arguing or domestic, because at the end of the day it's going to be all of the other people within their household that are affected by it as well.
Up next, Lifeline Awareness Week. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. This week is a Lifeline National Awareness Week, so if you are worried about a friend or family member, there is no time like the present to help them get the help they need.
Yeah, we've got lots of things that are coming up this year, and so there's some things that are happening right at the moment, like the No More Pokies campaign for Auckland. Since all the councils amalgamated, they're looking at public consultation for reviewing their policy, and we're really hoping that they will put a sinking lid in place for Auckland. So we're campaigning for that at the moment. The Gambling Harm Reduction Amendment Bill, that I don't know if you remember, but we mentioned it a bit last year because there was a lot of public submissions. The Select Committee has reviewed those, and they will be coming out with something again for March. So we'll find out what's the collated result, I guess, and see what people actually think. So we're looking forward to that. And there are some territorial local authority reviews as well. So that's the local councils. Hamilton and Matamata Piako Council and also South Waikato will be doing their reviews this year of their gambling policy. So we'll be making submissions and looking into supporting sinking lids for those as well.
Great, so you've got a lot coming up over the next year.
Yeah.
And so can you tell me what your key priorities at the the Gambling Foundation is?
What we say is our main aim is eliminating harm that comes from gambling. So anything that is causing harm as a result of problem gambling is what we're looking to reduce and eliminate eventually. So, and that sounds like a simple statement, doesn't it? But what it means really is that there are so many people that are affected by problem gambling. When we talk about the conservative estimate of about 3% of people with the issue, then you kind of think, well, that's 1 in 33 people. If you look, looking at it at a conversion sort of thing, and then you think, okay, 1 in 33 people, they all know lots of people as well, so they've got friends and family, workmates, and the community at large, especially if crime's involved, which sometimes it is. It's actually affecting all of us. So yeah, trying to eliminate any harm that's coming from harmful or problem gambling is what we're looking at.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so you also have a health promotion role. So can you tell me what about the help for people experiencing harm?
Yeah, so the health promotion role is the kind of thing that I was talking about with the reviews and that sort of thing. We're having a stall out at the base in Hamilton next Tuesday that'd be part of that role. We will have giveaways and talking to the public and petitions, that kind of thing. My counselling role is the other part of my job, which is actually the most part of my job. So that's working with anybody that contacts us in relation to wanting some help with problem gambling. And that might be the gambler themselves, or it might be somebody who's affected by them. Yeah.
Now, this week is the National Lifeline Awareness Week. So can you tell me how you at Problem Gambling are connected to this?
Yeah, we have a great relationship with the Gambling Helpline, and the Gambling Helpline are part of Lifeline. So that's our closest working relationship. We actually contract them to take our phones after hours. So when people are thinking, gee, I might need to talk to somebody, we're accessible 24/7 because of the Gambling Helpline. So it's actually a great relationship, and we get referrals through them as well. Yeah.
So can you tell me who these services are for?
Yeah. Really, as I was saying, kind of everyone who's affected by it, and it depends how closely that is and how distressing it is, how urgent that feels for somebody. So we get a lot of people looking at our website, for example, just trying to find out some information about whether they are affected, and some people are quite surprised by that when it's a family member. But yeah, gamblers in particular who are getting stressed about their addictive issues are the people that are fronting up most, and also their family and close sort of relationships, because those people are being affected by lack of money or stress that's happening in the household, that kind of thing.
Okay, so when can people call to get help?
People can call us anytime, as I say, day or night. Our Problem Gambling Foundation services with all of our 60 staff across the country are available in the daytime, and we've got the Gambling Helpline for taking our calls in the evening. So the best way, I think, is if somebody's out there thinking, you know, maybe I just need to check something out, or I'm worried that somebody I know's got a problem, or I'm a bit worried about myself, I'm not sure how serious it is, to actually speak with somebody. I think it's a good idea to check out our website, but speaking to somebody will give that further support as well.
So are there ways that members of the public can help?
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting a lot more interest and a lot more queries. So now it's things like supporting the petitions, maybe writing to the paper, certainly sharing people's stories and their experience of what's happened to their family as a result of harm from gambling is really helpful for us, and we can support people to do that as well. And as these campaigns come up in public consultation with the councils, that's a good time for people to make submissions and put their opinion across.
Contact the Problem Gambling Foundation with your questions, and especially if gambling is causing a problem for you or someone you know. 0800 664 262. And check out the website pgfnz.org.nz. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be back tomorrow night with more guests from in and around the regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.